let's talk about today the topic that started this adventure.
Sure.
FIRE.
FIRE.
FIRE. What does FIRE even mean?
FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early,
Okay.
right?
So what does it even mean? Like what like give me a metric. What does it mean to retire early? Is it a number? Is it like an age?
Yeah. So I guess the first encounter I had with this was the movie The Gambler, right? And I know people refer to it, but refer to the scene where the one dude, sorry, I'm really bad with actor names.
Okay.
He's basically telling this gambler that he's an idiot because he was at one point he was up 2.5 million USD, right? And basically the advice he was giving is you put, let's say, $500,000 into a house, you buy a decent car, put the rest into bonds and stocks, and you're set for life as an average person.
Yep.
Right? He put it this way. He called it FU money. He said it more explicitly than I will say it, but basically he's saying this. Anyone that tells you to do anything you don't want to, just tell them to F off.
True.
That's the very explicit way of putting it. But if you think about it, that's what we all want to do, right? Having the option to not have to do the things we don't want to do. Right? I think there's always the aspect of challenging yourself to do difficult things, but having options to not have to do them is great, right? And that's what the financial independence part is about to me. Any questions?
So when you ask that, you make it seem like I didn't process that, but I did. I'm listening.
No, I know.
No, I actually, like my brain completely went off on a tangent in thinking the way you were saying, like the idea of having financial independence and like no one can force you to do what you don't want to do, but like I want to build more on that topic. So like, does that mean like you know I'm gonna quit my job then, like, you know, down the like because like I like what I do. Don't get me wrong, I like what I do, but it's like I would like the financial independence to say, when I say retire early, do you mean as like by retire early I just quit, like I'll be able to quit my job at 40? Is that like what, like elaborate a little bit more on that part? Like that's where I'm trying to wrap my head around.
The retire early part is optional, but if you think about it as a mindset, then it's something that comes along with financial independence, right? Retire early as in you have the option to drop out whenever you choose to. So let's say you have a great team, a great boss, everything's great, but things change, people leave, people, like, you can get laid off. Like that's a possibility for everybody.
Yep.
Right? So what the retire early means is that in your mind you can already be retired. You can have you have the option to leave anytime you choose to, if let's say the job becomes unbearable because of various changes. If let's say you have kids, you want to spend more time with your family, for example, you can choose to negotiate to work less.
Yeah.
Right. So that so your identity, you realize at a point your identity doesn't have to be linked with your job. Your job can be something you do because you're interested in it, because you see meaning in it. It doesn't have to be something that you have to do, right? And in another way, like, retiring is not about not working. I don't think people in general will be happy just lounging around on a beach, or just...
It gets dull at one point.
It gets dull, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think back to when I was a kid, and in those summer months, especially, let's say in mid-August, I've kind of run out of things to do. And sometimes I tend to be...
You just didn't have enough friends.
That's true. That might be it. But I mean, like, when you're...
Score one. We should have a tracker at one point to see how many zingers we have against each other when we're making videos.
Hey man, if we're making this a competition, it's gonna get bad.
It's gonna get bad. We're gonna shut this channel down. You're right. No, sorry. No. I get the idea, like, when you're going, it's like, it will get dull at one point, like, but where I'm trying to go at is, a lot of people have an issue saying, like, they identify themselves based on the profession that they're in. But now is a really interesting way to, the way you put it together is to associate yourself or identify yourself with the level of financial health you're in. Is that, would you say, like, that's a little bit of where you're trying to go at?
I guess the identity part is a much deeper topic, but if we put that aside for now, is
Okay.
some jobs you tend to identify more with than others.
Yeah.
For example, when I worked, let's say in a grocery store, would
Mhm.
in high school, would I have identified as a cashier? No, no,
Mhm.
I don't care. I'm who I am
Mhm.
before and after the job,
Mhm.
right? But let's say if it's a job that you've dedicated, years or decades of your life into, for example, physician,
Mhm.
right? You're likely to identify strongly with that job, which may or may not be a good thing. But what this retirement piece is about is that identifying with something strongly actually this gets a little bit more philosophical
Yeah.
to me, but
Yeah.
identifying with any of these things strongly actually prevents you from growing as a person because you are using these identities, right, as something you're attaching onto these things
It's like a self-satisfaction thing.
as kind of like, oh, this is where I am as a person.
Mm.
So to me, I feel like there's obviously some level of attachment, but this actually gives you the opportunity to see past that
Mhm.
and to keep growing as a person.
Okay.
Because when you feel like, for example, right, when everything's going great, you may feel amazing. You may
Mhm.
feel like you're the boss, right? And if you keep on going that way, you may get arrogant. And when things get difficult, when you're not going up, when you're going on a downhill, for example, let's say you're a doctor and you lose your license. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how they feel to have dedicated decades of their life into this, and at the end of the day,
Stripped
just
away.
everything is gone,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not saying these things will happen or it's all that common, but at the end of the day, I think as people, as human beings, we all need to move past that. So that's where I see where the retire early really comes in. Is to give us the option to develop as human beings, to give us the time
Yeah.
and the option to develop in ways that we want to, right? You can still keep, if you love your job, you can still keep on going the way you were going. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It just, all I'm trying to say is fire gives you more options.
Okay, so let me quickly recap that because it seems like, because I don't want our viewers to misunderstand it. So like, fire is not necessarily saying to have a magic number or a magic number of like your wealth or a magic number of as opposed to your age. It's more so a mindset and it's case by case, depending
Absolutely.
for each person, and the weird thing about it is the fact that if I were to ask you this question point blank, I don't know how you would want to answer it though. Then this all sounds great enough. If I have to think, if I want to like just kind of wrap my head around it, is that right now I'm at the age of 27, 28 right now. I work at a bank right now in a corporate as a manager right now, and I am doing well with my career. Have a great team, have a great boss. Think a good trajectory in my career. All sounds great, but this concept of financial independence is saying that hey, if worst case scenario, if everything suddenly right to just go downhill, goes to the shits right now, I want to be in a position to be able to be removed from that, but not be screwed in my
Yes.
in a financial sense. I recapture that all correctly, correct?
Yeah, that's the most basic fundamental part of why people want to do it.
Okay, so then my next question would be, it might be hard to answer this is, how do I achieve that? How do I achieve that fire then? Like, so to recap the way I just said that, it's not saying that to have a specific dollar amount in my sitting in my bank account. It's not to say, by 35 I'll be there. But like, how do I? So fire is more like a mentality then. How do I achieve that then? Like what? Like is there certain behaviors I need to exhibit? Is there maybe maybe it is saving a certain dollar amount. Maybe it's associated to something relative to your income or whatever. So like tell me like how do I achieve that then? It sounds so like idealistic, but who wouldn't want to be that, right? Like
Yeah,
in worst
definitely.
case if I get laid off,
Yeah,
or like if things go downhill, I just throw in a letter and say I
Yeah.
quit. To have fire sounds great, that mentality,
Yeah.
but like there has to be some sort of like recipe or behavior one must exhibit or do
yeah.
over a period of time in order to achieve that. So like
Yeah.
now walk me through that part.
Yeah. So to your point, I just want to kind of briefly point out. I guess what I'm trying to say, the goal of fire is to create options and to give you options both in terms of your career, whether you want to do it or not, and in terms of personal growth as a human being.
Yeah.
But how to get there, there is a number. It could be it's probably different for everybody. And what that number is based on is two things. One is your lifestyle, and the second is what's called the 4% rule. So I think we'll go over these in much more detail in a later video. But I just want to briefly highlight what I mean by these. So lifestyle, I think what I actually mean is there's a certain level of frugality that you need. Not in terms of restricting yourself or not giving yourself what you want, but really seeing and evaluating things based on their worth and how much happiness it's going to give you.
Rewind real quick in case our viewers don't know, because I know I still struggle with this definition. Can you define frugality again?
Frugality is basically evaluating, let's say, material things you buy with how much time that can buy you in terms of years saved, not working jobs that you may not necessarily want to work, or just giving you the option of doing things you want to do instead. Right?
Okay.
So a very easy example is I love computers and video games, right? Should I really spend the $1,000 for a very high end graphics card? Or should I just get a Nintendo Switch and a bunch of games, right? Instead of having this insane computer, I can just have this console where I can play with a lot of
You
friends.
probably just started like a PC versus console war on the comment section for
So
just for that comment.
And I wanna continue with this, right?
Yeah.
And maybe I can even go further. I don't need to. Perhaps if I go further in my frugality, I don't need a Switch. I can do things outside. I can do free activities with friends. I can do something that my parents do on the weekend a lot is they hike, right?
Okay.
They hike in the city and outside of the city. And there's people that lead these WeChat groups that basically plan out the routes weeks in advance, right? So this is their hobby. They don't do it for money or anything, but this is what they love to do. And obviously it's free. It was the price of a car trip, right? So it's good for your body because you're out in the wild and all the benefits that comes with it.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how far you're willing to take it and what really makes sense for you at the time. You can always be more frugal. I think it's more it's like a skill that you can acquire.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's go back to the two rules, the 4% and the lifestyle. I think you were on lifestyle first when I interrupted you with elaborating on frugality.
Yeah. So the 4% rule, let me go through that first, is basically based on what's called the Trinity study. And it's a study that looked at spending a percentage of your investment portfolio over 30-year periods, right? And the chances of your money surviving 30 years. So you not running out of money over 30 years. So basically what they said from, I think, 1920s up until the 1990s, there's many different 30-year periods, right? And even at the worst of them, the 4% rule, imagine you bought all the stocks just before the Great Depression. It dipped, you lost the majority of your assets, but you were to keep spending 4% of your original investment portfolio value and to spread that over 30 years. What is the chances that you will not run out of money? Right? 30 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So if we kind of, we can basically say this is a lifetime, right? This is your retirement. So I think it's about 95% or more of those cases in 30 years, if you spend 4% or less, that you can actually make it all the way to the end. And what that means is that if you spend $40,000, all you need is $1 million in assets. I mean, all you need is $1 million in assets to have a good chance of that lasting the rest of your life, right? Nothing's 100%, but if you think about anything that's, nothing is guaranteed in life, right? But 90+% chance of lasting more than 30 years is pretty much as close as you can get. So, with with changes in lifestyle, you can also modify that. But if we just go back to the very simple example of $40,000 per year, and that's based on your lifestyle. The 40,000 defines your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So let's say you could move to, I don't know, maybe Thailand and cut your spending down to $20,000.
Okay.
Then you only need 500,000 to last you your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you think about it, if you have $1 million in Thailand, you have close to 100% chance of that money lasting your lifestyle for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Obviously, if the world breaks down and there's Armageddon and you lose all your money, then at least you would have enjoyed your time.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
So that's the basics of it. So if you don't inflate your lifestyle, if let's say you keep to a relatively simple lifestyle, but you can still have your relatively small luxuries. Right?
Yeah.
Let's say, for me, it might be a gaming computer. For someone else, it might be luxury handbags, right? So
that was a very slick comment to tackle our personal lives, which we'll dive into maybe in another day.
But I think as long as you understand the value of what you're buying, of how much time you have to put in, or what you're sacrificing in terms of your opportunity to not work.
So it's gauging your opportunity cost.
It's all about opportunity cost,
Yeah.
and it's all about truly looking at how much do things mean to you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that will that coffee really make you $5 happier? That $5.
Oh, wow. Okay, you put it in that perspective. Okay, I like that way you did. Yeah, sorry, keep going. I like the perspective you put, because I was trying to associate something more tangible. So yeah, okay, go on.
And to kind of give you more context, this whole movement started with a book called Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
So this book was published in the 90s, and the key message of the book is you're basically trading your life energy, your time, for money. That's
so philosophical.
That's what most of us do, right?
Yeah,
Your life energy
it's so
for
true.
money. So unless you 100% love your job, if you would do your job for free, that's basically the where we want to take you, right? Is for you to
keep doing it.
To keep doing things that you would do even if they were free or if they cost money. Right?
Because I have that level of financial dependence behind that.
Exactly. Because I have the lifestyle. Because my lifestyle and my finances are in balance.
Okay.
Based on the 4% rule.
Okay. Again, like, I know we're gonna sound like broken records. If some viewer out there one day starts binging all our videos, it's constantly seeing this common theme. It just goes back to financial responsibility.
It really does.
Because finding that balance, I'm personally guilty of it. I'm very sure many of us are. Is that we cheat that rule. We can afford that little more. Like I can afford it, but it's like, can you really afford it, or are you just giving up more?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of us stretch of what actually is being given up, or we devalue the opportunity cost, and increase the value of the thing that we're gaining.
Yes,
but
for sure.
But to your point, it's finding that balance. It's so weird, and like that's why I wanted to bring this up topic to you, and like for the viewers out there, like take it for a grain of salt, because I get it. Because when you first explained to me, I still remember you joked about this with me. You're like, oh, I would love to retire at the age of 35. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? And it's like, no, Matt, I'm not quitting my job. I have a great team. I'm happy. Like, at that time you're like, I'm about to get married and stuff like that. I know there's gonna be costs coming up, but like, I would love to have that financial independence where if everything were to go wrong right now, I am gonna be perfectly fine. I can actually, if anything, if that happens, maybe it could be a good thing for me too, where I have that level of independence with the money I have. I can pursue my other opportunities, my other dreams. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that, like it's almost like, are you thinking like an entrepreneur right now? Like, I'm like, no, that's not really it. Like it was just so foreign to me, the topic of talking about this level, like, because like put a number to it, right? Like, tell me, it's like, Matt, I want to be able to save $5 million by 35. I can wrap my head around that and say, okay, then you need to go work as like an investment banker, a lawyer, a doctor, because to generate that wealth.
Yeah.
That was something that I was trying to wrap my head around, and I couldn't, because this is something. It's a mentality. It's such a intangible thing
Yeah.
that like someone hears afterwards like, okay, then what? Like you haven't influenced me. You didn't give me an action plan.
Yeah.
There's no thing. There's nothing. There's no. Alex, you didn't give me a step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for me
Yeah,
to follow. Like it's so hard to
Yeah.
follow that, but it's so interesting and
Yeah.
it made me sad. Like, and this is why we're starting like this
Yeah.
this the whole channel too is when I went home and I thought about it, I'm like, what would happen if everything went to shit right now?
Yeah.
Like if I like putting like employee unemployment insurance everything aside, how screwed am I? And no, I feel like no one does that second check on themselves. Everyone thinks they're invincible. Everyone thinks all is fine.
Yeah.
And that mentality is so interesting. It's like
Yeah.
maybe you're not as fine as you thought you are. Then what if everything went to shit right now? Are you actually okay?
Yeah.
How long can you actually sustain your lifestyle? Can you
Yeah.
sustain? I don't think I can sustain 10 years, 5 years right now with my current. Like if I really would have like Nick Cohn done my life, I could probably survive 5 years with my current.
I think that's
portfolio.
really good already. It's just these are difficult topics to talk about, right? Finances are scary, right?
And who wants to talk about bad finances too?
No one wants to think about what could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because it's uncomfortable to even think about,
Yeah.
let alone talk about with someone else.
Some people can't even fathom it. Like when like even like I know this is a very dark conversation to say, but it's like some people talk about health. It's like you can't even picture what it's like to have a broken arm suddenly.
Yeah.
Or to have your arm amputated completely. Like I'm telling you to imagine that. Like,
That's pretty dark, man.
No, it's so dark, but like you don't think it because you don't see it.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
right? So
Yeah.
like
It's not a reality.
it's not reality. It's not like every day you associate or see someone going bankrupt,
Right.
going through like a divorce, like the worst of that, and it doesn't give you a reality check. It's
Yeah.
humans are we're such procrastinators.
Yeah.
We don't think about it until it's in our face, and
Yeah.
that's why it's to this point. Fire is almost like getting ahead of that ball game, tackling all those uncomfortable issues, addressing them, acknowledging that the potential is there, and how do you from there work back,
Yeah.
and how do you set yourself apart? Okay.
Yeah.
I
And,
can
and,
wrap
and
my
I
head
think
around that.
to your point, it's kind of about the game plan is actually very simple. Reduce your spending, save and invest, and in 10, 20 years you'll be fine, right? The game plan is very simple. The specifics obviously are more detailed,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you go about saving more? How do you go about actually investing your money? Like all these topics we're gonna cover in another video
Mm-hmm.
or other videos, but just the thinking that goes in, okay, if I do this, then there's this path that I can take. I think that in itself is what I got from the FIRE movement.
Mm-hmm.
Is there people are doing this and it's actually a possibility, right?
Okay.
And it's all about making small to medium sacrifices in the short term, once you evaluate your life and what you really care about,
Mm-hmm.
is making moderate sacrifices in the short term for more options in the long term.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense. And I think to your point, there's like the concept of fire. We knew from the get go when we talked about this. This is like a few hours long conversation if
Yeah.
we really wanted to.
Yeah.
And I would not subject our viewers to burn 3 hours of our time with us.
Yeah.
No, so thank you so much for this one. This is helpful. Like again, I'm still like trying to wrap my head around all the again, as humans, we want answers.
Yeah.
And like what you provided today is almost like think about it.
Yeah.
but there's no
it's just
answer.
more
But
questions.
It's,
right?
it's so many more questions. It's like,
Yeah.
there's no answer. I can tell you
Yeah.
this idea,
Yeah.
but I can't even give you the answer. Everyone's different, and it's like
Yeah.
it's even scarier now. Shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we'll leave it at that today. You know what? I can go on a tangent on this one. Thank you so much on this. We'll talk
Thanks,
more
man.
about fire in the coming videos. And if you like what you heard today, or you like the thing that I presented the other day, which is about bank accounts and more stuff to
Sweet.
come, then like, comment, and subscribe.
Subscribe. Thanks.